Hi, everybody. Hi, and welcome. Thank you so much for joining us today. Welcome back if you've joined us before, or welcome for those that are new. I am Libby Evans, and I'm joined with us today, Francis Evans, who's a trance medium, and he's in the background getting himself ready to bring Mercredan through consciousness that we call Mercredan, who we will be talking to today about collective consciousness and how collective consciousness shapes our reality, how collective fear contributes to potential global crisis, or does it contribute, and how we can use collective consciousness to heal or encourage peace or unity. So I really hope you enjoyed today's session. If you do, please give us a like. If you'd like to see more, please remember to hit the subscribe button. If you've got any questions as we go and you are joining us live, feel free to use the live comments box. If you have any questions for future topics or topic suggestions, please feel free to comment in the box below anytime, and we'll see that. Yeah, I hope you enjoyed today's session. I'll cross over to Francis now and let's see what Mercredan has to say for us today. Over to you, Francis.
Once again, it is my privilege and pleasure to come and spend these few moments of your time. As I have said many times, the first law of the universe is the law of paradox. And from that emerges the second law of polarity. One example of such polarity and such paradox is the difference between life and death. So shall we say life is a point of focus, and the other, shall we call this a point of awareness. One is focused on the specifics, and one is considering the vastness from which everything descends. Enough of an opening to begin our conversation.
Thank you. And thank you, Mercredan, for being here again with us today. Today, we would like to talk about collective consciousness, and I would wonder if you could kick us off by talking to us about what is collective consciousness and any insights that you can give us today.
Of course, I like to put in our framework before we begin. So the point of awareness, the underlying frameworks of which everything is taken into one's experience. So shall we say, then all potential is within the field of awareness. And from that, one can pick whatever it is one wishes to focus upon. Focusing upon one aspect does not eliminate all the others. So shall we say collective consciousness then is the store from which one selects one's activities. Does that begin to answer the question?
Very much so. Yes, thank you. So in terms of the store, the collective consciousness that one selects its activities from, can fear or anxiety, and I'm guessing if we tune into fear or anxiety or more negative traits, and that's what we choose to focus on, if more of us do that, can that create a global crisis?
Global crisis comes from separation, from accepting, acknowledging that one is different from anything else, anyone else. So one has chosen, shall we say, the game from the game store. You go into the store of toys, as it were. You look around. There are many things that you could be attracted to. So the game that you are buying, shall we say, is one of aggression, one of protection, one that builds anxiety in its function, shall we say. One is playing one of your computer games. It is a game of kill or be killed. Now you are creating not only the excitement, but the anxiety. One is excited, I can kill someone. I am anxious that I can be killed at the same time. Of course, now you have built that into your consciousness. The consciousness that you claim is your own. That is your point of focus. But the paradox is one's point of focus is never separate from the point of awareness. So one is delivering to the, shall we call it, collective unconscious degrees of anxiety, degrees of excitement, and a mechanism, a methodology for creating such appeal, as it were. Do you understand? Because as one's energy, one's emotional body is stirred, one is creating pulses and addictions. So one, as one becomes more excited, one becomes addicted to the excitement. And the excitement is also anxiety. There is no difference emotionally between the two. So one is addicted to anxiety as well. Now one has to treat the anxiety, and so it flows into society as a whole. You understand your addictions, that is, your chemical addictions are results of such the gameplay. One has put oneself at odds with other aspects of society. Now one is, shall we say, excited and addicted and anxious. So now you have, shall we say, all the elements for violence. And notice how that has occurred. So it all is at this point of creation when someone recognizes their addiction to excitement. One begins meditation. One begins to deliberately create calmness. the calmness one is creating reduces the excitement and the addiction. One begins to put that out into the collective universe as such. You understand? One begins to recognize that calmness does not, shall we say, energize and magnetize. It's opposite.
Calmness doesn't. It doesn't.
That is correct. Calmness is lacking high energy. So its attraction is towards things of, shall we say, lesser energy. One is elevated to, shall we say, a higher framework of existence. One moves, shall we say, more beyond the emotional responses into the mental field of exploration.
Thank you. Yes, it does. My next question was actually around collective meditation, but also things like prayer. How can we use meditation and prayer to influence global peace and healing?
You understand, as soon as you arrive in that place of bringing calmness into the point of focus. In other words, when someone who is living becomes calm, then the collective consciousness, that is the point of awareness, begins spreading that same influence. One begins to see the sides and how it has come into being of conflicts. One thing then, one ceases to attract it in one's natural habitation. This may seem difficult to understand when you can be shown so much decimation. I want to say the greatest difficulty for humans at this period of time is not to get caught into, shall we say, the information cycle. It always seems as if this or that. But in truth, all of it is coming into play, shall we say, as a mechanism for the final shift in consciousness. Humans may choose to shift consciousness, can choose to integrate as a unified species, or they can choose the path of harm and destruction. In the end, there is a shift of consciousness occurring. Human are arising out of the challenges of the old experiences. As we have mentioned before, there have been or are 3 world wars. The war for the physical plane, the war for the emotional plane, and the war that is on at the moment, the war for your mind. So when one withdraws one's attention from it, then one shifts from the point of focus back into the point of awareness. The point of awareness, the collective unconscious, supports all of the species by, shall we call it, gaining insights into the framework that is often considered the archetypal nature of individuals and how it plays out in one's personal life. So there is an underlying, shall we say, power that is enlivened in the new species to explore their inner reality and to share it not as individuals with a point of focus, but as groups within a framework of interaction. Does this make some sort of sense?
It does, thank you. So are there any examples of how collective consciousness have shifted during significant historical events that you know of?
The resolution of any event, shall we say, in the early history, as empires developed and also extinguished, then, shall we say, the consciousness within a certain group evolved to higher points and then began always to, shall we say, try to dominate and to suppress its own populations, in which brought about, shall we say, underlying dissatisfactions, which led eventually to self-destruction. Such example as a unit, shall we say, as a group of species also applies to the individual. The individual that is trying to suppress elements of itself will, of course, find dissatisfaction, disharmony, and eventually self-destruction. So as an example, perhaps one of the most powerful examples is the emergence of the identification with the Islamic religion because of the nature of the true Islam. Every portion of society was recognized for its value, for what each individual brought, shall we say. And while there are many ideas about how the society was expressed, shall we say, it was a high point in development. The final destruction then comes about when there is a certain degree of intellectual arrogance and shifting, shall we say, from sharing into accumulating. In reality, within the collective consciousness, nothing belongs to anyone. And some time ago, I was always talking about what I called surfing in consciousness. That is, when one moves out of the specific, that is, when one shifts from the point of focus, one is capable of exploring awareness, the collective, for what is the options and opportunities. When one gathers, shall we say, enough intelligence to apply, then one can bring an opportunity into manifestation.
Interesting. So how, sorry.
And so within that, one's exploration of the collective unconscious is also requires a notion and an experience of timing. What is, shall we say, an opportunity may have to wait for an appropriate time. That is what I want to say.
Interesting. Thank you. So how can us as individuals help contribute to the raising of the consciousness, the collective consciousness?
When one sees this polarity, life and death, that the life is simply a focus of attention, then one realizes that there is nothing to fear from the other, from the letting go of that focus. One then creates a bridge between, shall we call it, life and the beyond. When one has created the bridge, fear becomes less, and one becomes more, shall we say, stable. One is calm and collected. And so one, shall we say, begins to stabilize the storms within the collective unconscious.
Thank you. Is there anything else you'd like to add today?
As always, one hopes that whoever is listening will take this away and contemplate. How does this sound in one's being? How does this give me more to activate, and how is my results? In other words, if I take this as an experiment, I try it on, I see results. One may not see the results in the world, but what about the closer fields of influence? One begins first of all with self and the local fields. Enough for today. Once again, my appreciation for these activities, because they are all contributing to the shift in consciousness. Thank you. And
Thank you. Thank you, Mercredan, and thank you, Francis. And thank you for all those that have joined us today and are still with us now. Delane will be back in 3 days' time with a conversation with Mercredan around love and healing and how or what role love can play for healing emotional, physical, and spiritual wounds. Until then, if you enjoyed today's content, please do give us a like. It really does help us. And if you'd like to stay in touch or see what we've got in the future, make sure you subscribe. We do have a few changes on the horizon, which Delane will probably mention on Friday. Francis and Delane are relocating to another country. They're moving from New Zealand to Bali for an extended period of time. So we will have a break of around 10 days, 2 weeks. And when we return, we will still hopefully be doing it twice a week, but it might be a few hours later than it currently is now. So we'll update that with you in the future, and you'll be able to see any upcoming live channeling events advertised on our channel if you subscribe. In the meantime, I hope you have a wonderful day or evening or night, wherever you are in the world, and thank you so much. Bye for now.